Suburban Sentinel here, along with Bella the camera cat. This video is about the tragic death of Andrea Rebello. This was and is big news in and around the New York City metropolitan area, but I'm not sure this got much attention throughout the rest of the country. While untimely deaths of young people are, unfortunately, a regular occurrence, this story is particularly compelling because it touches so many aspects of the criminal justice system. First, let's identify the major players. The decedent, Andrea Rebello, a 21-year-old Hofstra University student living off campus in a single-family residence with her twin sister and another young gal. For those of you unfamiliar, Hofstra is a pretty decent-sized university out on Long Island in Nassau County. Second major player in this story is Dalton Smith, the perpetrator. Smith was, for all intents and purposes, a career criminal. He had multiple convictions for offenses including but not limited to armed robbery and automobile theft. At the time of the incident, Smith was a fugitive. He had been paroled, I believe, in 2011 and had broken the terms and conditions of that parole. Just prior to his conditional release from prison on the armed robbery charge, the commission had praised Smith for attending and completing some type of anger management type training and furthering his education. The final major player in this story is an unnamed Nassau County police officer. The basic facts, which as far as I know are undisputed, are as follows. It was the wee hours of the morning, just before final exams at Hofstra. The victim, Andrea Rebello, was in that single-family home with her twin sister roommate and a second roommate, along with a guest, and Dalton Smith broke into the home. Smith was armed with a 9mm pistol and robbed all of the occupants at gunpoint. Smith was apparently dissatisfied with his haul from the robbery, so he sent one of the female occupants out to an ATM machine to withdraw cash and held the other occupants hostage. Rather than going to the ATM, the female occupant called police, who responded very quickly. Officers confronted Dalton Smith, who at the time had Andrea Rebello in a headlock with the gun pointed at her head. During the confrontation, Smith pointed the 9mm pistol at the Nassau County police officers who responded, and the yet unnamed officer opened fire on Smith. The unnamed officer fired 8 shots from his service weapon, 7 of which struck Smith and killed him. Unfortunately, 1 shot hit Rebello in the head and killed her as well. So those are the basic facts, and as far as I know, they are undisputed. Come here, Bells. So the question is, who or what killed Andrea Rebello? And what we're talking about here is causation. Now let's distinguish proximate causation from causation in fact. Now, proximate cause, or legal cause, is who was legally responsible for Andrea Rebello's death. Of course, the perpetrator, Dalton Smith, is legally responsible from a criminal perspective. Now, whether anyone else bears some civil or criminal responsibility remains to be seen. My focus on this video is causation in fact. Now, all actions, whether good, bad, or indifferent, have consequences. Like a stone thrown into a still pond, our actions ripple out into the world. The question here is, what is that stone that caused Andrea Rebello's death, or even more broadly, who threw that stone? To illustrate this, let's walk back through some of those ripples. Well, first, did a bullet kill Andrea Rebello? Technically, yes. Is a bullet the ultimate cause of this young girl's untimely death? Well, of course not. This bullet just didn't appear out of nowhere. Was it a gun that killed Andrea Rebello? Well, sort of. But again, the gun just didn't go off or decide to shoot itself. That gun had to be handled by somebody or something. Was it the unnamed police officer who fired 8 rounds from his service pistol? Well, of course he was involved. Was the officer the ultimate cause of Andrea Rebello's death? Of course not, assuming, and we have no reason to believe he wasn't, engaged in the discharge of his duties and or was acting in self-defense or defense of others. Was the perpetrator Dalton Smith the cause of Andrea Rebello's death? Well, that certainly makes sense. But for Dalton Smith committing this crime on that early morning, none of this would have happened. Now, reasonable people might be tempted to stop there, saying the cause and fact of Andrea Rebello's death was this career criminal, Dalton Smith. But I think we should look a little deeper and go a little further. Let's take a look at the criminal justice system from 50,000 feet. The criminal justice system has 3 purposes: to punish offenders, to rehabilitate offenders, and to segregate offenders from those of us who are law-abiding citizens. So how well does our criminal justice system perform for those 3 objectives? Well, let's look at each one briefly. Punishment, I don't know, that's arguable. A lot of times we punish the wrong people or punish people for minor offenses and let real criminal bad guys go for stupid reasons. But I guess we could argue whether the justice system metes out punishment fairly overall. Rehabilitation, I think that most people would agree that our system, as far as rehabilitation goes, fails miserably. Otherwise, we wouldn't have so many quote-unquote career criminals. The recidivism rates for felons, particularly violent felons, is pretty high. So we don't seem to be doing a very good job at making these people into law-abiding citizens. As to the third goal, segregating or isolating criminals from the general population, I think our system fails miserably too. In this country, we house a tremendous number of non-violent offenders, and yet we have a bunch of career criminals who tend to get out eventually, and again, those recidivism rates are very high. Many people are convicts with records of violent felonies who have not been rehabilitated, and they still walk among us. Now, we the people have been putting up with this incredibly imperfect system for many decades. So back to that ultimate question, who killed Andrea Rebello? I think we need to take a hard look at ourselves as a people and admit that we bear a certain amount of responsibility for tragic events such as this. We need to demand better of our criminal justice system. Do I have all the answers? Of course not. but I can say with a high degree of confidence that change to this system is not only warranted, but necessary. My thoughts and prayers go out to the Rebello family. This is the Suburban Sentinel. Thanks for watching. Please thumbs up and subscribe if you like what you see. Questions and enlightening comments are always welcome. Be safe, everybody.